Before the bell, waking in the dark. Have you ever wondered what it was like to wake in the middle of the night, not in a warm bed with soft sheets, but in a narrow stone cell, under a wool blanket that smells faintly of smoke and mildew? The life of a medieval monk begins long before the sun, before most of the city stirs, before farmers step into their fields, before merchants roll carts to market. The monastery is already awake. Before we begin, pause. Dim your lights, if you have not already. Adjust your pillow, as though it were a straw mattress. Slow your breathing, steady as the tolling of a distant bell. This story will move slowly, like a monk's careful step down a stone corridor. And if your eyes close before the day has truly begun, the monastery will keep its rhythm without you. The room is almost entirely dark, only a faint line of moonlight slipping through the small slit of a window. Your blanket is rough wool, patched many times. The straw mattress beneath you rustles when you shift, uneven and prickling at your skin. The air is damp. You smell mildew on the stone, wax from yesterday's candle, faint traces of smoke carried from the distant hearth. You hear nothing but your own breath, until faint footsteps stir somewhere in the corridor. The cold presses close, heavy on your hands and feet. Your habit, folded neatly on a stool, waits for you, stiff from yesterday's wear. The myth of constant serenity. It is often imagined that monks lived in serene, unbroken peace. The myth is of endless calm. The reality is less polished. Many monks struggled to wake on time, to stay alert, to endure the cold. Records in old chronicles speak of brothers nodding off during prayers, fumbling psalms, even grumbling quietly at the bell. The myth comforts imagination. The reality stirs under blankets, reluctant and shivering. Brother Thomas, the sleepy one. From down the corridor, you hear Brother Thomas sigh. He is known for dozing through prayers, always blinking heavily, always a step slower. Even tonight, he groans faintly, shifting on his straw bed, reluctant to rise. Some brothers joke that Thomas serves God most faithfully in dreams. Brother Peter, the scribbler. Another sound, a soft scratch. Brother Peter has already lit a stub of candle. Instead of rising for the chapel, he scribbles tiny notes in the margin of a parchment scrap. Half prayers, half doodles. He is known for filling every surface with little drawings. Fish with comically large eyes, saints with oversized halos. Even in the stillness, his quill whispers against the page. Step by step rising from the straw bed. The bell has not yet rung, but you know it will soon. You begin the slow routine of rising. Push the blanket aside, air biting cold against your skin. Sit upright, straw rustling beneath you. Place feet carefully on the cold stone floor, toes curling. Pull habit over your shoulders, wool rough but warming. Whisper a short prayer under your breath. Words steady. The process feels more ritual than convenient. A mild dilemma. Your blanket still lies warm. The air bites colder than before. You could linger just a moment longer, eyes closed, body still. Or you could rise fully, waiting for the bell's call. You sigh, choosing to rise, though the straw whispers for you to step. The corridor in darkness. You step into the corridor. The walls are stone, damp to the touch. A draft whispers through cracks, carrying the smell of smoke from the kitchen far below. Footsteps echo softly as other monks stir, their habits swishing against stone. The silence feels alive, broken only by breath and movement. The myth of endless warmth. Some imagine monasteries as warm sanctuaries, fires always burning. The myth is of comfort. The reality, wood was rationed, fires few, rooms left cold. Documents note brothers warming hands over candles, stretching warmth thin. The myth comforts expectation. The reality stiffens fingers in the dark. Step by step washing in cold water. At the wash basin you join the line of brothers. Dip hands into cold water, shock biting instantly. Splash face gently dripping down neck. Wipe with rough cloth, scratchy and thin. Comb fingers through hair, water chilling scalp. Step back, breath slow, as another takes your place. The routine cleans more by ritual than by comfort. Brother Thomas again. Thomas mutters faintly as cold water touches his face. His eyes half closed, his hand moves slowly, as though sleep clings even tighter than the cold. Another brother nudges him forward gently. Thomas yawns, already behind in the line. Brother Peter's margins. Peter meanwhile, sketches the wash basin itself, water lines drawn in tiny swirls. He smiles faintly, tucking parchment back into his sleeve. Before the rules of the early hour, even before the bell, rules shape the morning. Rise when called, no complaint. Wash hands and face. even in cold. Walk in silence. Voice is low. Keep eyes lowered. Thoughts steady. Wait for the bell. Never before. Never after. The rules are steady as stone. A mild dilemma. A brother before you drops his cloth. You could hand yours over, leaving yourself damp, or wait silently, keeping your own. You pass yours forward quietly, dampness clinging longer than comfort. The sound of the awaited bell. At last faint footsteps approach. The bell ringer pulls the rope, wood creaking. A single toll echoes through stone, then another. The sound is low, steady, rippling across the monastery. The brothers fall into motion. Steps soft, habits sway. The day has begun, though the sun is still hours away. The myth of eager obedience. It is easy to imagine monks leaping joyfully at the sound. The myth is of eagerness. The reality, many walked slowly, yawning, shoulders heavy. One chronicle even notes monks dragging feet like oxen. The myth comforts devotion. The reality shuffles to prayer half asleep. Toward the chapel, you join the line. Footsteps echoing, candles flicker in hands, dripping wax on stone. The smell of tallow fills the corridor, smoke clinging to cloth. The chant has not yet begun, but silence already feels like song. Brother Thomas blinks heavily, nearly stumbling. Brother Peter doodles a candle on his sleeve before tucking quill away. The soft cadence, the bell tolls, the corridor hums, the candles drip, and you, walking slowly, feel the monastery breathe into day. The footsteps echo, the doors open, and you drift gently into rest. The night office hours before dawn. Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to walk into a medieval chapel when the world outside is still asleep? The stars shine faintly beyond narrow windows. The air is colder inside than out, and the voices of monks begin to rise long before the first hint of sunrise. Before we continue, take a breath. Let your shoulders soften. Let your thoughts drift slowly, as though carried on low chanting. If you close your eyes before the prayers end, the psalms will continue without you. Entering the chapel, you follow the brothers into the chapel. The door creaks softly as it opens. Inside, the air is heavy with incense left from yesterday. Candles flicker against walls of stone, their light small but steady. The benches are narrow, wooden and cold to the touch. The floor smells of damp stone, wax and dust. The silence thickens until the first voice rises. The myth of angelic choirs. It is easy to imagine monastic prayer as perfect music, harmonious and steady. The myth is of angelic choirs. The reality is humbler. Voices crack, notes wander, yawns sneak between verses. Chronicles note, brothers sometimes sang off key, others mumbled quietly, and a few even nodded off. The myth comforts imagination. The reality creaks with human imperfection. Brother Thomas at prayer. Brother Thomas leans forward on his bench. His eyes blink slowly, heavy from wake. As the chant begins, his voice starts strong but fades, replaced by a soft hum that slips towards silence. More than once his head droops, nearly striking the wood before him. A brother nudges him gently, and he startles back to wakefulness. Brother Peter's margins. Brother Peter opens his psalter. Where others see only text, Peter has added small doodles, tiny birds perched on letters, fish swimming between lines. He follows along faithfully, but every pause tempts his quill to wander. On the edge of tonight's page, a crooked little candle flickers in ink. Step by step, beginning the night office, the routine unfolds in calm order. The bell tolls softly, marking the hour. The abbot speaks the opening words, voice low. The brothers respond in unison, sound rising like a tide. Psalms are read, each verse answered by the next. Candles drip steadily, wax thickening at their bases. The rhythm is less music than heartbeat, steady and slow. A mild dilemma. The psalter before you is heavy, its clasp stiff. You could leave it half open, saving effort, or you could tug it fully, risking the clasp snap. You sigh and pull it open, leather creaking, pages rustling soft. The cold of the hour. The chapel is colder than your cell. The air hangs still, stone holding the chill. Your breath rises faintly in the dim light. The habit on your shoulders warms, but your hands sting from frost. The myth of tireless devotion. It is imagined that monks prayed eagerly at every hour, never faltering. The myth is of tireless devotion. The reality, many struggled with exhaustion. Letters from abbots mention brothers drifting to sleep mid-psalm, some snoring softly, until nudged awake. The myth comforts piety. The reality sighs with weariness, step by step chanting a psalm. The chant begins again. A single brother intones the opening line. The others join, voices uneven. The sound echoes off stone, filling empty space. The verse ends. Silence holds for a breath. Another begins, cycle repeating endlessly. The chant feels less like song and more like steady breath. Brother Thomas's struggle. Thomas yawns so loudly that two brothers glance over. He covers his mouth, mumbling the next line. Half words, half sighs. Still he remains upright. Eyes heavy but present. Brother Peter's quill. During a pause, Peter sketches a tiny rat in the corner of his psalter. Its whiskers poke upward toward a line of He smiles faintly, hiding the page before the chant resumes. Rules of the night office. Every prayer follows rules older than memory. Rise when the bell tolls, no matter the hour. Sit in silence, eyes lowered. Join the chant, even if your voice falters. Do not sleep though weariness tempts. Brother Thomas struggles. Brother Peter scribbles. The rules bind the hour as firmly as stone walls. A mild dilemma. The candle beside you drips wax onto your sleeve. You could move it aside, risking darkness, or leave it, burning skin faintly. You shift slightly, sleeve safe, flame steady. The sound of the chapel hums with layered noise. Chanting voices, uneven but steady. Candles popping faintly as wax drips. Wood creaking under shifting weight. Wind pressing faint against shutters. The sound is soft, like water moving slowly through stone. The myth of endless grandeur. Some imagine chapels always grand, filled with stained glass and gilded icons. The myth is of splendor. The reality, many monasteries were plain, bare walls, wooden benches, and faint decoration. Archaeology shows whitewashed stone, simple carvings, little color. The myth comforts vision. The reality keeps walls bare. Toward Lords, the chant continues until at last a pause arrives. The abbot raises his hand, and silence deepens. The prayers shift from matins to Lords, welcoming the faintest hint of dawn beyond the shutters. No sun is visible yet, but the air feels subtly changed. Less night, more morning. Brother Thomas stirs, blinking rapidly, trying to appear alert. Brother Peter sketches a faint sun in his margin before closing the psalter. The soft cadence, the voices fade, the candles drip, the shutters stay closed, and you, sitting quietly, feel the night dissolve into morning. The breath steadies, the silence deepens, and you drift gently into rest. Bread and silence, the morning meal. Have you ever wondered what it was like to eat breakfast in a medieval monastery? Not plates piled high with meats and cheeses, but a single crust of bread, a mug of ale, and silence thick as the stone wall. The meal is not about flavor. It is about rhythm, order, and patience. Before you continue, pause. Take a slow breath as though inhaling the faint smell of fresh bread. Exhale gently, as if lowering your eyes at a wooden table. If you close your eyes before the crumbs are brushed away, the benches will still wait in stillness. Entering the refectory, you follow the line of monks into the long hall. The refectory is tall, its windows narrow, its walls plain. A wooden table stretches the length of the room. Benches worn smooth by centuries of use. At the far end stands a lectern, where one brother will read aloud as the rest eat. The smell greets you first. Bread baked yesterday, ale sharp, pottage faintly sour. The air is cool, stone holding the night's chill. No voices rise. The silence feels louder than sound. The myth of monastic feasts. It is easy to picture monks feasting like lords, with platters of meat and overflowing goblets. The myth is of abundance. The reality, most meals were simple and repetitive. Bread, ale, vegetables, sometimes cheese, rarely meat. Records from monastic rules describe strict moderation, with fasts lasting many days. The myth comforts appetite. The reality counts crumbs. Brother Thomas and the crust. Brother Thomas sits heavily, shoulders slumped. He lifts his crust of bread, eyes half closed. His jaw moves slowly as though chewing itself were an effort. More than once he nearly drops the crust into his ale. A nearby brother nudges him awake with a quiet cough. Brother Peter's margins. At the lectern, Brother Peter has been assigned to read. He holds a parchment with psalms, but in the margin is a tiny doodle, two mice chasing crumbs. His voice drones steadily, but his quill has already left its mark. Step by step, the blessing of the meal. The ritual is slow, deliberate. All stand in silence, eyes lowered. The abbot makes the sign of the cross, words low but clear. Bread is lifted, then placed gently back on the table. Each monk sits, waiting still. Only when the reader begins does the first bite follow. The blessing is as important as the food itself. A mild dilemma. Your bread feels stale, edges hard. You could dip it quickly in ale, softening the crust, or chew slowly, teeth aching. You sigh and dip, the bread softening just enough to swallow. The silence of the meal. Only 3 sounds fill the hall. The voice of the reader steady and slow. The scraping of wooden bowls against the table.
The faint rustle of cloth as monks shift quietly. No laughter, no chatter, only rhythm. The myth of flavor. It is tempting to imagine monastic meals flavored with spices, or sweetened with honey. The myth is of variety. The reality, seasoning was rare, often just salt, maybe onions or herbs. Archaeology confirms plain grains, legumes and simple breads. The myth comforts the tongue. The reality swallows slowly, step by step, eating in silence. The process repeats daily. Break bread with fingers, never knives. Dip into ale or pottage, crumbs softening. Chew slowly, eyes lowered. Swallow listening to the reader's voice. Set bowl down carefully. No clatter. The rhythm itself becomes nourishment. Brother Thomas's struggle. Halfway through the reading, Thomas's head dips forward. His bread slips from his fingers, landing in his mug with a dull splash. The monk beside him frowns, pushing the mug back upright. Thomas blinks, mutters an apology, and resumes chewing soggy crust. Brother Peter's reading. Peter continues, voice steady, though the doodle in his margin distracts him briefly. His tone rises on psalms, falls on lessons, each word clear but heavy. He shifts slightly, quill still hidden in his sleeve. Rules of the refectory. The refectory holds its own strict codes. No talking during meals, bread broken by hand, never knife. Reading never ceases until the last brother finish. Food taken in moderation, never waste. Brother Thomas nods, Brother Peter scribbles. The rules are as steady as the stone itself. A mild dilemma. The monk beside you drops half his bread. You could pass him yours, leaving yourself with less, or look away keeping your portion. You quietly split your crust, placing it on his plate. He nods once, silently grateful. The smell of the hall carries its own scent. Ale sour but warming, bread faintly yeasty though stale, pottage thin, earthy with onions, wax from candles dripping, smoke faint. The smell clings, humble and plain. The myth of constant meat. It is often imagined that monks enjoyed regular meat. The myth is of privilege. The reality, meat was forbidden on many days, often replaced with fish or vegetable. Benedictine rules stressed simplicity, and chronicles note complaints about endless beans. The myth comforts luxury. The reality swallows lentils. Toward the end of the meal, the bread grows smaller, the mugs lighter. The reader's voice continues, words blending into rhythm. The abbot glances down the line, ensuring no one speaks. The whole breathes slowly, evenly, as if one body. Brother Thomas at the end. Thomas finally finishes, chewing last crumbs. His head droops again, but this time the abbot clears his throat sharp. Thomas straightens, blinking rapidly, crumbs clinging to his habit. Brother Peter's closing. Peter ends the reading with a simple line. He sets the parchment aside, his doodled mice hidden once again. He bows his head, voice quiet. The meal is done. Step by step, ending the meal. Each monk places bowl carefully on the table. Hands fold in silence, eyes lowered. The abbot blesses once more, voice low. Brothers rise in unison, benches creaking. They file out quietly, leaving crumbs behind. The end is as ritualized as the beginning. The soft cadence, the bowls cool, the crumbs scatter, the voices hush, and you rising slowly, feel the monastery settle back into silence. The benches creak, the hall empties, and you drift gently into rest. Labor in the fields and gardens. Have you ever wondered what it was like to work in a medieval monastery's fields? Not the image of monks forever in prayer, cloistered in endless silence, but men with dirt on their hands, hose on their shoulders, and sweat dampening their wool habit. Before you continue, pause, exhale slowly, as though setting down a heavy tool. Imagine cool earth beneath your hands, the smell of turned soil filling the air. If your eyes close before the weeds are cleared, the garden will wait for you.
Stepping into the garden, the door creaks open, and you step into the morning air. The garden lies before you, rows of vegetables and herbs bordered by fruit trees. Mist clings low, dampening your habit's hem. Birds call faintly, wings stirring leaves. The smell is strong, earth freshly turned, herbs sharp, manure pungent. Near the compost heap, your fingers curl, already sensing the weight of work. The myth of monks in prayer alone. It is easy to picture monks always at prayer, books in hand, eyes lifted. The myth is of pure devotion without interruption. The reality, manual labor was essential. The rule of Saint Benedict commanded ora et labora, pray and work. Fields had to be tilled, animals fed, gardens weeded. The myth comforts the imagination. The reality blisters hands. Brother Thomas in the field. Brother Thomas carries a hoe, but he leans on it more than he uses it. His eyelids droop, head bobbing slightly. When nudged, he stirs, gives one half-hearted scrape at the soil, then rests again. Some say Thomas prays with his eyes closed. Others say he simply sleeps standing. Brother Peter and the herbs. Brother Peter kneels near the herb bed, where others pull weeds. Peter sketches thyme and sage onto scraps of parchment. He mutters quietly about the shapes of leaves, how they curl like letters. The weeds grow taller while his drawings multiply. Step by step, weeding the rows. You bend to the soil, beginning the slow work. Grip the base of a weed firmly. Twist gently, loosening roots from the damp soil. Shake earth free, smell sharp and fresh. Place weed in basket, stalks piling. Move to the next, repeating endlessly. The rhythm becomes almost meditative. A mild dilemma. The weeds grow thick around the onions. You could pull quickly, risking damage to the crop. Or you could move slowly, patient, steady, but time dragging. You choose carefully, preserving onions, though your knees ache longer. The smell of labor. As the sun rises, scents deepen. Soil damp, manure heavy, herbs sharp. Your hands smell of sage and sweat. The air thickens, earth and body mingling. The myth of gentle gardens. Paintings sometimes show monks strolling in neat gardens. Hands folded, serenity everywhere. The myth is of effortless peace. The reality, back-breaking work. Weeds endless. Soil clinging to every fold of habit. Chronicles complain of aching joints, cracked nails, stiff backs. The myth comforts the canvas. The reality stoops in the dirt, step by step, watering the beds. Another task begins. Draw water from the well, bucket creaking. Carry carefully, wood damp against your hands. Pour slowly between rows, soil darkening. Move bucket back, refill, repeat. Wipe forehead with damp sleeve. The water splashes softly, rhythm as steady as prayer. Brother Thomas again. Thomas tips his bucket too far, water spilling over his sandals. He sighs, mutters faintly, then sits on the well edge, rubbing his eyes. A brother coughs pointedly, but Thomas only nods. Brother Peter's notes. Peter holds up a leaf of sage against his parchment. He sketches its veins carefully, smiling faintly. A nearby brother scolds him gently. Peter tucks parchment away, weeds one plant, then pulls quill back out again. Rules of labor. The garden, like the chapel, has rules. Work in silence, voices low. Tools return to shed when finished. Water sparingly, no waste. Weeds pulled fully, roots and all. Brother Thomas leans. Brother Peter sketch. The rules keep order even in soil. A mild dilemma. The sun grows warmer. You could remove your hood, cooling your head, or keep it on, avoiding scalding for laxity. You sigh, keeping it in place. Sweat beading. The sound of the garden. Noise grows with the morning. Tools scrape against stone and soil. Buckets splash water. Birds call overhead, wings fluttering. A donkey brays faintly beyond the wall. The sound is steady, layered, unhurried. The myth of idleness. Critics of monasteries once accused monks of idleness. The myth is of leisure, days wasted. The reality, monasteries were engines of labor. Fields plowed, mills worked, manuscripts copied. Records show large estates sustained by monastic toil. The myth comforts in salt. The reality sweats in rhythm. Step by step, gathering herbs. As midday nears, the herb garden is tended. Cut sprigs of thyme with small knife. Bundle with twine, tying tightly. Hang beneath shaded roof to dry. Label bundles with chalk marks. Carry to storeroom, air sharp with fragrance. The herbs will flavor pottage, treat illness, or fill ink. Brother Thomas's nap. Thomas lowers onto a bench, bundle of rosemary falling from his lap. He sighs, eyes closing. Another brother shakes his head, placing the bundle back in Thomas's hand. Brother Peter's curiosity. Peter compares mint leaves to the curls of letters. He scribbles, mint like M, sage like S. His notes mingle botany with alphabet, as though the garden itself were a manuscript. Toward midday, the sun climbs high. Sweat dampens habits. Soil cakes hands. Tools clatter back into sheds. Buckets drip empty. The brothers line once more, silent, moving back toward the refectory. The soft cadence. The soil clings. The weeds pile. The herbs dry. And you, wiping hands, feel the monastery hum with labor. The tools rest. The garden stills, and you drift gently into rest. Study and scriptorium. Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to spend hours copying a single page by hand? each letter carefully shaped, each mistake scraped away with a knife. The medieval monastery was not only a place of prayer, but also of ink, parchment, and patient silence. Before we begin, pause, let your shoulders loosen, as though setting down a heavy book. Exhale slowly, as though your breath were the scratch of a quill on parchment. If your eyes close before the final line is copied, the manuscript will still be waiting in the scriptorium. Entering the scriptorium, you step into the long narrow room. Light filters through tall windows, but only faint. The benches are lined with desks, each set with parchment, quills and small knives. The air smells of ink, sharp, metallic, mixed with the must of vellum. Dust floats in the shafts of light, moving slowly with every breath. The silence is absolute, broken only by quills scratching, parchment rustling, and the occasional cough. The myth of monks as scholars. It is often imagined that every monk was a scholar, eager to fill libraries with wisdom. The myth is of universal learning. The reality, many monks found the work tedious, some fell asleep at desks, others made small mistakes, and only a few became skilled scribes. Records show manuscripts with smudges, forgotten lines, even doodles in margins. The myth comforts prestige. The reality yawns between lines. Brother Thomas at the desk. Brother Thomas sits heavily at his desk, quill in hand. He copies one line carefully, then blinks slowly, eyes closing. His head dips, forehead nearly brushing the parchment. A blot of ink stains the margin before he wakes again. He sighs, wipes the page with his sleeve, smearing it further. Brother Peter's doodles. Brother Peter meanwhile leans eagerly over his work. His letters are steady, but in the margin appear tiny sketches. A saint with a nose far too long, a fish balancing on its tail, a bird perched on the edge of a capital letter. He grins faintly though no sound escapes. Step by step, preparing the quill. Before any writing begins, the tools must be ready. Take a goose feather, dried and trimmed. Cut the tip carefully with a small knife, shaping the nib. Test on a scrap of parchment, adjusting and dip gently into ink, wiping excess on cloth. Begin with the first careful stroke. The process is deliberate, more ritual than task. A mild dilemma. Your quill splits mid-sentence. You could continue, leaving jagged letters, or pause to sharpen, losing time. You sigh, setting knife to feather, reshaping slowly while words wait. The sound of the room. The scriptorium hums faintly. Quills scratch against parchment. Knives scrape to erase mistakes. A cough echoes, then silence returns. The sound is steady, a rhythm of patience. The myth of speed. It is tempting to imagine manuscripts produced quickly, page after page. The myth is of swift copying. The reality, one book could take months, even years. Ink dried slowly. Mistakes were common. Patience stretched thin. The myth comforts library. The reality drips ink, step by step, copying a line. You begin your page, hold quill upright, steady hand, form each letter carefully, curve precise, dip quill again, ink dark, continue line, adjusting spacing, end with flourish, though simple. The letters march slowly, evenly, across the page. Brother Thomas again. Thomas rubs his eyes, leaving a smudge of ink on his cheek. His parchment shows crooked lines, blotches spreading. Still he presses on, lips moving faintly with each word. Brother Peter's curiosity. Peter sketches a rabbit in the margin, ears too large for its head. He pauses, then adds a tiny caption in Latin, Hic lepus dormit, here the rabbit sleeps. He smiles faintly, then resumes the rules of the scriptorium. Even here, silence has structure. No speaking except in necessity. Quills sharpen before work, not during chants. Mistakes scrape gently, never smudged. Margins left clear though Brother Peter ignores them. Brother Thomas blots, Brother Peter doodles. The rules are inked into memory as firmly as parchment. A mild dilemma. The candle at your desk burns low. You could lean closer, risking wax dripping on the page, or pause to fetch another, losing your line. You shift nearer, breath steady, trusting the flame to hold. The smell of the scriptorium. The air is layered with scents. Ink metallic, pungent. Parchment earthy, like leather and dust. Candle smoky, wax dripping. Sweat faint from bodies bent long over desk. The smell is heavy, clinging to cloth. The myth of perfect texts. It is imagined that every manuscript was flawless. The myth is of perfection. The reality, errors abound. Misspelled words, skipped lines, repeated sentence. Some scribes even added notes. I am tired, or this parchment is bad. The myth comforts libraries. The reality sighs in margins. Toward midday, the light grows brighter through tall windows. Pages fill slowly,
words marching across parchment, hands ache, eyes sting. The abbot calls softly, ending the session. Brother Thomas stretches, nearly knocking over his inkwell. Brother Peter tucks his doodled page carefully away, step by step, ending the session. Close ink pots, lids waxed, wipe quills, lay flat to dry. Stack parchments neatly, weights atop, extinguish candles one by one, rise slowly, stretching stiff limbs. The room exhales silence, as brothers file out. A soft cadence, the quills rest, the ink dries, the parchments wait, and you, closing your eyes, feel the scriptorium sigh into stillness. The benches creak, the candles fade, and you drift gently into rest. Midday prayers and meals. Have you ever wondered what it was like to pause at midday in a medieval monastery? The morning's labor fields, gardens or scriptorium is set aside, and the brothers return to the chapel. The sun sits high, its light streaming faintly through narrow windows, warming the stone just enough to soften the chill. Prayers rise again, steady and low, before the larger of the day's meals begins. Before you continue, pause, breathe slowly, as though inhaling the faint scent of pottage simmering. Exhale gently, as though bowing your head at a long wooden table. If you close your eyes before the bowls are emptied, the benches will still creak quietly in your absence. The return to chapel. You follow the line of monks once more. The door groans as it opens, and cool air greets you. Inside, candles flicker though sunlight filters faint. The smell of stone and wax lingers. The voices begin. Terce and sext are chanted, psalms answered, prayers folded neatly into rhythm. The sound echoes, layered and steady. Some sing clearly, others mumble softly, lips barely moving. Brother Thomas yawns mid-psalm, his voice fading into silence. Brother Peter traces a tiny sun in the margin of his psalter. The myth of constant fervor. It is often imagined that every prayer was spoken with unwavering passion. The myth is of perfect devotion. The reality, many voices wavered, minds wandered, some prayed out of habit rather than zeal. Monastic rules themselves caution against distraction, which suggests distraction was common. The myth comforts belief, the reality stumbles softly through words. Leaving the chapel, when the final psalm ends, silence lingers. The brothers bow, turn and file slowly toward the refectory. The smell of food drifts stronger, vegetable broth, bread, faint herbs. Stomachs stir quietly, though no words break the line. Entering the refectory again, the refectory feels warmer now. The air hums faintly with the smell of pottage, steam rising from great pots. Bread loaves sit stacked, their crusts hard, edges dark. Mugs of ale wait, wooden and plain. At the far end, the lectern is ready once more. Brother Peter climbs the steps, psalter in hand, doodle hidden on the back page. As step by step, serving the meal. The routine begins. Brothers stand in silence, as the abbot blesses the food. Bowls are placed on the table, steam curling. Bread is broken, halves passed down the benches. Pottage ladled slowly, vegetables floating, mugs lifted, ale sipped sparingly. The rhythm is slow, deliberate, unchanging. Brother Thomas and the spill. Thomas, half asleep, drops his ladle into his bowl. Broth splashes onto his habit, darkening the wool. He sighs quietly, lifts bread instead, and chews steadily. Nearby brothers glance but remain silent. Brother Peter at the lectern. Peter begins to read, voice steady, words flowing from psalms to lesson. Yet in the margin, hidden from view, is a small sketch of a fish leaping from waves. His voice continues, serious, though his quill betrays play. The myth of monastic feasts. It is tempting to imagine monks dining richly, tables full. The myth is of the reality. Meals were plain, repetitive, bread, beans, pottage, ale, sometimes cheese, rarely fish. Documents show rules limiting indulgence, forbidding gluttony. The myth comforts appetite. The reality swallows slowly. Dip carefully into the bowl, broth thin. Scoop vegetables, carrots, beans, onions. Lift slowly, steam warming your face. Sip quietly, swallowing without noise. Return spoon gently. Repeat. The broth fills the stomach more than the tongue. A mild dilemma. The bread is coarse, crust thick. You could dip it in broth, softening, or chew it dry, jaw aching. You dip, broth soaking in, crust soft enough to bite. The sound of the meal. The whole hums faintly. Spoons tapping bowls. Bread crusts crack. The reader's voice steady, unbroken. Benches creaking softly as monks shift. The sound is layered but subdued. The myth of constant silence. It is said meals were eaten in perfect quiet. The myth is of absolute silence. The reality, small noises broke the stillness, snores from Brother Thomas, coughs from the elderly, even stomachs growling. Records note admonishments for laughter and whispers. The myth comforts discipline. The reality sighs between Brother Thomas again. Thomas's head dips, nearly into his bowl. He wakes with a start, lifts bread, chews slowly, eyes closing again. Another brother nudges him with an elbow, and he blinks furiously. Brother Peter's closing words. Peter ends the reading, voice trailing soft. He closes the psalter carefully, his fish doodle hidden once more. The abbot bows his head, signaling the meal's end. A step by step, ending the meal's end. Step by step, ending the meal. Set spoon gently in bowl. Fold hands, bow head in silence. The abbot speaks the closing prayer. Brothers rise in unison, benches creaking, bowls and mugs collected, carried to the kitchen. The hall exhales as food disappears. Rules of the refectory, repeated. The order holds steady each day. No speaking while eating. Bread broken, not cut. Reading never stops until all are finished. Waste nothing. Crumbs brushed into bowls. Brother Thomas drifts. Brother Peter doodles. The rules shape silence, as firmly as stone walls. The smell of the aftermath. The hall smells heavier now. Steam faded, bowls empty. Ale sour in mugs. Breadcrumbs stale on benches. Wax dripping from candles. Smoke faint. The scent lingers like habit itself.
A mild dilemma. On your bench lies a spare crust. Forgotten. You could take it, pocketing food for later. Or leave it, trusting fairness. You sigh, leaving it untouched, though hunger whispers. The hall empties, benches bare, bowls stacked. The sunlight through narrow windows grows brighter, slanting across stone. The next task, hospitality, labor, or scriptorium, waits beyond the door. Brother Thomas rubs his eyes, stumbling. Brother Peter tucks his quill behind his ear, smile faint. The soft cadence. The bowls cool, the crumbs fade, the bench is empty. And you, stepping quietly, feel the monastery settle into afternoon. The candles drip, the hall sighs, and you drift gently into rest, hospitality and almsgiving. Have you ever wondered what it was like to arrive at the gates of a medieval monastery, hungry, weary, and carrying only dust on your shoes? For pilgrims, beggars, and travelers, monasteries offered more than walls of prayer. They were places of bread, rest, and a little kindness. Before you continue, pause, exhale slowly, as though setting down a heavy pack. Let your breathing steady, as though waiting in line at the gate. If you drift before the bread is broken, the monks will still share it in silence. At the gate, you step into the courtyard. A line of travelers stands waiting. A woman with a staff, a beggar clutching a bowl, a boy holding a bundle of herbs. The gate creaks open. The smell of bread drifts outward, warm and plain. A monk steps forward with a basket. Inside, loaves, coarse and dark, but enough. The line stirs, eyes fixed, a myth of monks as isolated. It is often imagined that monasteries shut themselves off completely. The myth is of walls too high for the world. The reality, monasteries were part of their communities, offering food, medicine, shelter, even justice. Records mention long lists of visitors fed, pilgrims housed, beggars clothed. The myth comforts separation. The reality opens gates. Brother Thomas with the basket. Brother Thomas carries one basket of bread. His head nods as he walks, eyelids heavy, nearly tripping on the step. He hands out loaves slowly, sometimes giving two when only one is expected. The beggars smile faintly, grateful for his drowsy generosity. Brother Peter and the pilgrim. Brother Peter watches a pilgrim with a wide-brimmed hat, taller than most. Instead of handing bread immediately, Peter sketches the hat in the margin of a parchment scrap. He chuckles softly, then offers bread with a bow. Step by step, distributing bread. The almsgiving follows its own rhythm. The abbot blesses the loaves, words low and steady. Baskets are filled, carried to the gate. The visitors step forward one by one. Each receives bread, sometimes with a ladle of broth. The line thins, crumbs scattering underfoot. The routine repeats daily, as steady as prayer. A mild dilemma. A child stretches forward, hand empty. You could give him a second piece, knowing the basket is light, or keep to the rule, one loaf each. You slip him a small crust, hidden in his hand. His grin is quick, then gone. Then gone. The smell of the courtyard. The air thickens with scents. Bread warm, yeast faint, broth simmering nearby, onions sharp, wool cloaks damp with travel, dust rising from boot. The courtyard hums with mingled smells of hunger and relief. The myth of limitless charity. It is tempting to imagine monasteries giving endlessly. The myth is of infinite supplies. The reality, charity was measured, bread rationed carefully, broth stretched thin. Chronicles describe abbots counting loaves, balancing hunger with duty. The myth comforts abundance. The reality weighs each crumb. Monks kneel, lifting each foot gently. The water poured, dust washed away, feet dried with coarse cloth, shoes returned. The act is humble, ritual as much as relief. Brother Thomas again. Thomas nearly nods off as he pours water, basin tilted. A pilgrim coughs politely, and Thomas steadies himself, smiling weakly. He hums softly, perhaps half prayer, half dream. Brother Peter's sketches. Peter sketches the basin itself, water swirling like lines of script. He adds a pilgrim's foot, exaggerated toes curling comically. He tucks the parchment away before the abbot notices. Rules of hospitality. The monastery holds firm customs. Beg of bread given daily, 1 loaf each. Broth added when possible. Feet washed, not ignored. Guests housed briefly, never turned away in storm. Brother Thomas nods. Brother Peter sketches. The sound of the courtyard. Noise layers softly. Loaves passed. Baskets creaking. Water poured into basins, splashing faintly. Murmured thanks. Quiet prayers. Crows calling from the wall above. The sound is humble, subdued, never loud. The myth of perfect charity. It is imagined that monks never tired of giving. The myth is of endless cheer. The reality, some grew weary, grumbled at beggars, or worried about shortages. Letters from abbots mention frustration, even reluctance. The myth comforts faith. The reality sighs as baskets empty. Toward evening, as the line thins, the baskets empty. The basins are poured out, cloths hung to dry. The courtyard quiets, only crows lingering. Brother Thomas carries his basket back, nearly tripping again. Brother Peter tucks away his doodled hat. The abbot nods once, and the gate creaks closed. The soft cadence, the baskets rest, the loaves are gone, the courtyard stills, and you, breathing slowly, feel the monastery exhale into quiet. The gate closes, the dust settles, and you drift gently into rest. Afternoon labor, mills, kitchens and brewing. Have you ever wondered what it was like to spend your afternoon in a medieval monastery, not in prayer or reading, but in steady labor? For monks, afternoons were not idle hours. They belonged to mills, kitchens, breweries and walls that always needed repair. Before we begin, pause, let your breath settle, as though carrying a wooden bucket. Exhale slowly, like steam rising from a simmering pot. If you fall asleep before the work is finished, the millstone will keep turning without you. Entering the mill, the sound comes first, a low, steady grind. The great stone wheel turns slowly, fed by a chute of grain. Dust fills the air, coating habits and hands alike. The smell is sharp, earthy flour mingling with sweat. A line of brothers carry sacks of grain, their steps slow but even. The myth of monastic idleness. It was once said that monks were idle, living off charity, avoiding work. The myth is of leisure. The reality, monasteries were engines of labor. Grain milled, beer brewed, fields tilled, animals tended. Records show monastic estates feeding entire villages. The myth comforts critics. The reality sweats in rhythm. Brother Thomas at the mill. Brother Thomas heaves a sack onto his shoulder. He stumbles, knees bending, nearly dropping it. He groans softly, dust rising around him. At the chute he spills more grain than he pours, blinking as though half asleep. Brother Peter's sketch. Brother Peter pauses with a chalk stick, drawing the millstone itself on a slate board. He adds tiny smiling faces on each grain as they tumble. Another monk shakes his head muttering, but Peter only grins faintly before returning to the sack. Step by step grinding grain. The mill runs with slow precision. Pour grain steadily into chute. Stone wheel turns, powered by water or hand. Grain crushed, flour spilling below. Collect flour in sacks, dust rising. The rhythm is endless, steady as prayer. A mild dilemma. Your sack tears slightly. You could keep carrying, flour spilling, or return for another, losing time. You sigh, returning for a fresh sack, watching the torn one empty sadly on the ground. Into the kitchen. From the mill, you walk into the kitchen. Heat strikes first, fires roaring, pots simmering. The smell of onions, cabbage and herbs fills the air. Steam curls upward, dampening the ceiling. Monks stir cauldrons with wooden paddles, sleeves roll. Brother Thomas and the pot.
Thomas stirs slowly, leaning heavily on the paddle. His head dips dangerously close to the steam. Another brother coughs sharply, pulling him back before he nods straight into the pot. Thomas wipes his brow, muttering half a prayer, half a sigh. Brother Peter and the herbs. Peter is sent to chop parsley. Instead he sketches the sprigs onto parchment, writing their names in large curling letters. When scolded he hurriedly chops a handful, leaving stems longer than the leaf. Step by step cooking pottage. The cauldron requires care. Chop vegetables, cabbage, onion, carrot. Toss into boiling water, steam rising. Add herbs, thyme and parsley. Stir slowly, scraping bottom. Ladle portions when bell toll. The scent grows stronger, filling the hall. A mild dilemma. The pottage tastes thin. You could add more herbs, risking scolding for waste, or leave it plain, knowing the brothers expect more. You sprinkle a small pinch, flavor lifting slightly. The smell of the kitchen. The kitchen is rich with scents. Boiling cabbage, sharp and heavy. Onions frying faintly, sweet and acrid. Smoke from the hearth clinging to cloth. Yeast rising in bowls, sour but warm. The smell clings long after leaving. The brewery. Beyond the kitchen lies the brewery. Wooden vats bubble softly, yeast working. The smell of malt is thick, sweet and sour together. Monks stir slowly, tasting with wooden step by step brewing ale. The brewery follows its own routine. Soak barley in water, letting it sprout. Dry grains by fire, scent smoky. Crush into coarse malt, hands aching. Boil with water, stirring endlessly. Leave to ferment, barrels sealed tight. The air hums with the smell of ale in the making. Brother Thomas again. Thomas is tasked with stirring. He leans too heavily, paddle slipping, splashing ale onto the floor. He mutters quietly, fetching a rag, moving slower than before. Brother Peter's doodles. Peter sketches a vat on parchment, adding bubbles shaped like faces. When another brother passes, Peter hides it quickly, grinning faintly. Rules of afternoon labor. Even labor has its codes. Work in silence, voices low. Waste nothing, grain, herb or drop. Fires banked when done. Brother Thomas stumbles. Brother Peter sketches. The rules keep order, even in sweat. A mild dilemma. The ale smells sour, too strong. You could report it, risking blame, or stay silent, trusting it will pass. You say nothing, stirring slowly, hoping bubbles mean health. The sound of the afternoon. Noise layers thickly. Millstones grinding steadily. Pots bubbling. Paddles scraping. Grain sacks thumping. Voices murmuring prayers. The monastery hums with words. The myth of sacred only. It is tempting to picture monasteries as only sacred places of prayer. The myth is of pure devotion. The reality, they were also factories, kitchens, breweries, farms. Accounts show productivity equal to worship. The myth comforts idea. The reality sweats at the vat. Toward evening, the sun lowers, shadows lengthen. The millstones slow, fires dim, vats sealed, tools washed, benches cleared. The smell of cabbage lingers, smoke drifting upward. Brother Thomas rubs his eyes, flour clinging to his face. Brother Peter tucks away his sketches of parsley, and bubbles. The soft cadence. The stones rest, the fires cool, the vats settle, and you, setting tools aside, feel the monastery sigh into quiet. The dust settles, the shadows grow, and you drift gently into rest. Vespers and evening meals. Have you ever wondered what it was like to end the day in a medieval monastery? The fields are quiet, the mills stilled, the gardens folded into dust. The brothers gather once more in the chapel, their voices softening with weariness. Before moving to the last meal of the day, before you continue, pause, breathe slowly, as though exhaling the day's labor. Let your shoulders settle, as though lowering a wooden bowl. If you drift into sleep before the candles are snuffed, the monastery will continue into evening without you. Returning to chapel, the sun lowers, light filtering dimly through narrow windows. The chapel glows faintly, candles flickering against stone. The air smells of smoke, incense from earlier, still lingering. Voices rise once more, steady but softer now. The psalms of Vespers flow like a slow river. Some brothers sing strong, others nearly whisper. The stone echoes, then Brother Thomas's voice fades quickly, his jaw stretching in a long yawn. Brother Peter traces a rabbit on the margin of his psalter, ears too large, body round. The myth of endless energy. It is tempting to imagine monks always alert, tireless in devotion. The myth is of unbroken vigor. The reality, fatigue weighed heavily after long hours of labor. Records mention yawns during prayers, nodding heads, even drowsy mistakes in chants. The myth comforts the ideal. The reality stumbles toward evening, leaving the chapel. When the last psalm fades, silence deepens. The abbot bows, the brothers turn, and the line files out. The refectory waits, plain and familiar. The smell of food drifts, vegetable broth, bread, ale, entering the refectory at dusk. The refectory feels darker now, lamps lit along the walls. The windows are grey, no light beyond. Candles flicker at the long tables, wax dripping steadily. The meal is simple, more bread, thin broth, ale poured sparingly. No feast, only sustenance. At the lectern a monk opens a book ready to read aloud, step by step, blessing the evening meal. The routine unfolds again. The abbot lifts his hand, voice low in blessing. Bowls are placed carefully before each monk. Bread is broken by hand, never cut. The reader begins, voice steady. Only then does the first bite follow. The rhythm feels more like ritual than dining. Brother Thomas at the table. Thomas sits heavily, eyes half shut. He lifts his spoon but misses his mouth once, broth dripping onto his habit. He sighs, chewing bread slowly, head dipping forward dangerously close to the bowl. Another brother nudges him sharply, and he startles awake. Brother Peter's margin rabbit. Peter, reading tonight, drones steadily, but in the margin of his book is a doodle, a rabbit so plump it nearly fills the page. Its ears droop, its belly round. Peter hides a faint smile as he continues to read aloud. The myth of monastic feasts. Some imagine monasteries dining richly at night, tables piled with food. The myth is of feasts. The reality, evening meals were often lighter, plainer than midday. Rules forbade indulgence, urging moderation. Chronicles note repeated meals of beans, cabbage, bread. The myth comforts hunger. The reality dips bread into thin broth. Step by step, eating in silence. You lower your spoon, dip into broth, careful not to clatter. Lift slowly, steam faint in candlelight. Sip quietly, swallowing with patience. Chew crust of bread, jaw steady. Set spoon down softly. The silence wraps tightly around the act of eating. A mild dilemma. Your bread is smaller than usual. You could eat it quickly, ending hunger sooner, or save half, stretching it slowly. You choose the second, each bite deliberate, though patience aids. The sound of evening. The hall is filled with muted noise, spoons tapping softly, bread crust cracking, the reader's steady voice, benches creaking faintly, the faint hiss of candles. The sound is subdued, like the day itself. The myth of perfect silence. It is said meals were eaten in absolute quiet. The myth is of unbroken stillness. The reality coughs, sneezes, dropped spoons, stomachs growling. Rules were strict, but human bodies noisier than ideals. The myth comforts imagination. The reality echoes faint interruptions. Brother Thomas again. Thomas drops half his bread into his broth. He stares blankly for a moment, then fishes it out with his spoon. The soggy piece droops heavily, yet he chews it anyway, expression flat.
Brother Peter's closing. Peter finishes reading. He lowers the book carefully, doodled rabbit tucked safely away. The abbot bows once, signaling the end. Step by step, ending the evening meal. Place spoon gently in bowl, fold hands in silence. The abbot blesses quietly. Words soft. Brothers rise. Benches creaking. Bowls and mugs collected, carried to kitchen. The hall empties slowly. Silence returning. Rules of the evening meal. The same codes repeat. Bread broken by hand. No speaking during food. Reading continues throughout. No waste crumbs brushed into bowls. Brother Thomas droops. Brother Peter doodles. The rules hold even as night deepens. The smell of the aftermath. The hall smells tired. Broth thin. Bowls scraped clean. Breadcrumbs stale. Ale sour. Candles dripping wax. Smoke faint in the air. The smell clings like shadow. Toward compline. The brothers leave in line once more. The chapel awaits, final prayers ready. The refectory grows darker. Candles snuffed one by one. Brother Thomas rubs his eyes, stumbling. Brother Peter tucks quill behind his ear. The abbot leads the way into night. The soft cadence. The bowls rest. The benches cool. The candles fade. And you, stepping slowly, feel the monastery settle into stillness. The doors close. The voices hush. And you drift gently into rest. Compline and silence. Have you ever wondered what it was like to fall asleep inside the stone walls of a medieval monastery, not in a bustling town or noisy city, but in silence so thick it presses against your ears. The day ends with compline, the final prayers, and then, at last, the slow surrender to rest. Before we begin, pause, breathe gently, as though extinguishing a candle flame. Let your hands grow still, as if folding into a coarse wool blanket. If you drift into sleep before the last prayer, the monastery will keep its silence for you. Entering the chapel one last time, the doors creak open, and you enter the chapel for compline. The air is heavy with the scent of melted wax. Candles burned nearly to their ends. The windows show no light outside, only darkness, pressed against the stone. The brothers sit in their places. Their voices begin once more, but softer than before. Psalms flow like whispers, words settling more than rising. The sound seems less for God, and more for rest. Brother Thomas yawns openly, head nearly tipping forward. Brother Peter traces a final doodle of a candle guttering, ink faint and crooked. The myth of perfect peace. It is tempting to imagine compline as flawless serenity. The myth is of complete stillness. The reality, bodies coughed, feet shuffled, monks fought yawns. Some chronicle notes even mention snores beginning before prayers had ended. The myth comforts sleep. The reality begins it too soon. Step by step, compline prayers. The ritual unfolds slowly. The abbot begins with blessing, voice low. Brothers bow heads, eyes half closed. Psalms are read, verses answered softly. Candles flicker, wax dripping silently. A final hymn rises, then fades into stillness. The rhythm feels more like a lullaby than a service. A mild dilemma. The candle beside you burns low, wax pooling. You could snuff it now, saving wax, or let it burn to the end, light soft but wasteful. You sigh, letting it fade naturally, light trembling against stone. Brother Thomas already asleep. Before the last hymn finishes, Thomas slumps sideways on the bench. His snores rise softly, blending into the chant. The abbot clears his throat but does not wake him. Even drowsiness perhaps is prayer. Brother Peter's last doodle. Peter, instead of singing the last verse, draws a bird perched on the hymn itself. Its wings stretch over the lines, as though ready to fly away. He smiles faintly, closes his psalter, and tucks quill into sleeve. Leaving the chapel, the prayers end. Candles are extinguished, smoke curling upward, sharp against the nose. Darkness folds in quickly, the chapel dim and heavy. The brothers file out, feet shuffling softly, habits brushing stone. The monastery exhales into silence. Step by step, preparing for sleep. You walk the corridor back to your cell, remove sandals, placing them neatly by the bed. Fold habit, though wool still damp from the day. Lie down on straw mattress, rustling faintly. Pull rough blanket over shoulder. Close eyes as cold stone presses around. The ritual is simple, unchanged for centuries. The myth of warm beds. It is often imagined that monks slept comfortably. The myth is of warmth and ease. The reality, straw mattresses, thin blankets, cold. Archaeology finds lice combs, proof of restless nights. The myth comforts rest. The reality scratches at skin. The smell of the cell. Your cell smells faintly of wax, smoke and stone. The straw beneath carries a sour, earthy scent. Your blanket smells of wool, unwashed, smoke clinging. The air is cold, fresh, sharp against the nose. A mild dilemma. Your blanket slips. You could rise to adjust it neatly, or curl tighter, leaving feet uncovered. You curl tighter, sighing, hoping warmth will hold. The sound of night. The monastery grows quiet. Distant coughs echo from cells. Wood creaks faintly in beams. Somewhere Thomas snores loudly. Peter scratches quill one last time. The sound fades, layer by layer, until silence remains. Rules of the night. Even sleep is shaped by codes. No talking after compline. Lights extinguished. No candles burned. Beds left simple. Straw and wool only. Silence kept, even in waking. Brother Thomas snores. Brother Peter scribbles. The rules fold night into order. Toward midnight, the hours pass unnoticed. Darkness deepens. Silence thickens. Only the faint drip of water in stone corridors remains. Thomas shifts, snores resuming steadily. Peter closes his parchment at last, hiding his bird. The monastery sleeps, heavy and slow. The soft cadence, the candles fade, the straw rustles, the walls breathe, and you, lying quietly, feel the monastery fold into night. The silence deepens, the stone holds stillness, and you drift gently into rest.